Recently, I was going through my art journals. I have several. One is finished, the rest are in process. And as I flipped through them, I saw a rhyme, a pattern in what I've chosen to create on their pages. And the more I looked, the more obvious it became why I've been subconsciously choosing certain things to draw, paint, or collage. As someone who is very much into symbolism, deeper meanings, philosophy, and psychology, I decided to explore why it is so important to interpret our art journals instead of simply shutting them down and starting a new one. As an example, I will share how I interpreted the 3 most common motifs that I've noticed in my entries, and in the second part of the video, I'll give you a simple and very doable approach to interpret the symbols in your art. If you're new here, welcome, I'm Anna, and I started this channel to share art journaling tips and inspirations, and also how I build my personal art practice for self-exploration. There are timestamps in the video so you can navigate it the way you want it. And we will begin with the humblest and most common object that I bet many of you like to choose for your art journal entries. And we usually don't think about the deeper symbolic meaning that can stand behind it. I love drawing mugs, and usually when I choose it as an art journal entry, I don't overthink. I mean, it's the easiest object to sketch, right? But it is always so satisfying, and when I'm attentive enough, when I draw or sketch or collage a mug, I notice a very special feeling of calmness and warmth and something very soothing. And it's what I usually feel when I have my morning coffee or afternoon tea or evening cocoa. These feelings and associations of mine are very common and natural, and whenever I notice that I begin to depict mugs or cups more often than usual, it's a sign that I need more calming soothness and caring breaks in my life. But there is also a deeper symbolical meaning behind a drinking vessel, which is an expression of our human collective memory, which all of us bear, whether consciously or subconsciously. It involves different religious traditions where chalices were and are used in ceremonial rituals, from offerings to gods to Eucharist. There are very profound Japanese and Chinese tea ceremonies after all. Thus, as a cultural symbol, a mug or a cup stands for a shared experience, while as a personal symbol, it can have a different facet. After giving it a little bit of thought, I found out that for me, a mug symbolizes the cyclical journey of fullness and emptiness. It's a reminder that the only way to make room for something new, some new experience, is to let go of everything that no longer serves me. A lamp is a slightly more complicated object to depict as compared to a mug technically, but symbolically it is more straightforward. It's all about clarity, focus, and discovery. Yet my personal symbol of a lamp is more nuanced and has more to do with creativity. The thing is that my creativity blooms in the dark, meaning that I feel the biggest waves of inspiration early in the morning or late in the evening when there is not that much of sunlight. And then a lamp becomes the witness of my creative journeys. While thinking about this symbol, it also occurred to me that obviously a light bulb icon is usually used to symbolize some idea or inspiration or insight. There are quite a few ways to give form to this metaphor, so it can be a lamp, it can be a light bulb, it can be a shadow after all, because it is an integral part of the whole concept of light. If we go even deeper into symbolism, in all cultures, light also represents guidance. Think of the lighthouse, hope, or even spiritual presence. I always date my art journal entries, and anyway, I usually remember what happened, what I felt on a particular day when I look at the picture that I've made. And while I was analyzing my lamp related entries, I noticed that on those particular days I felt very anxious and overwhelmed and sad, and maybe subconsciously I was looking for some guidance, for some light inside or outside of me. And judging by the relief that I always feel after finishing my art journaling session, my subconsciousness probably found a lot of solace, a lot of understanding and support in depicting that symbol of a lamp. A bird was my first recurring and favorite object to depict from the times when I was still discovering my art practice, when I made my first steps, and it happened about 7 years ago, and I was in my mid-30s back then. So at that time, I was very much into creating surreal dot work illustrations with birds and different objects, collaged or drawn. And since then, nothing changed. Birds are among my favorite things, creatures to depict in my art journal entries or as separate pieces of art or illustrations. The most obvious and straightforward interpretation of a bird as a symbol is freedom, hope, transformation, and also spirituality, as birds play quite essential roles in almost all world's belief systems. I can talk about birds and their symbolism for hours, but I don't want to bore you with that. So I highly recommend researching this topic if, like me, you are so into depicting birds in your art. Most of my bird-related art journal entries have doves or pigeons. And these birds have the richest symbolical presence across global cultures, from Native American culture to Christianity, from Feng Shui to astrology. Resilience, personal growth, peace, spiritual guidance, love. The list of interpretation variants is long. While in my personal inner space, pigeons symbolize humble and simple living, endurance and survival no matter what. Here where I live now, in the city of Novi Sad in Serbia, there are a lot of pigeons, and this fact makes me happy. Those were examples of my repeating art journal motifs, and now I want to offer you a very simple and doable 3-step approach to interpreting your own symbols in your art journal. I will suggest what to look for and in what order. Flip through your journal and try to spot recurring motifs. You might be surprised with what you discover. If you include texts in your art journal entries, don't forget to look for specific words. A symbol can be represented in so many ways. For example, a bird can be represented as a picture of a feather, or certain words such as wings or fly. And from my own experience, I recommend you not to rely on your memory. Just keep a list. If you spot that this or that object keeps reappearing on several pages, just write it down. The list that you will thus create will be needed for the second step. Make a list of characteristics of each repeating object. For example, a mug can be empty or full or beautiful or ceramic or glass, and then translate those physical characteristics into mental and emotional ones, like metaphorical. For example, the fluidity of water can become the fluidity of life. At first, enumerate the most obvious and common characteristics of the object, and once those are exhausted, you will begin to find more personal, symbolical meanings. It usually happens so that we have to dig through the surface layer of things first in order to access the deeper layer of meaningfulness, and it's a very curious process to experience. Don't set any restrictions or rules. Use whatever words come to your mind, be them adjectives, nouns, or verbs. And for example, a tree can be imposing, green, dark, talkative. A tree can be a woman, or a tree can be a child. And only after you do this personal research, there is time to proceed with the offline or online research, when you will try to find more context to the symbols that you have discovered in your art journals, and maybe discovering some nuances that you might or might not resonate with. While you look up cultural references, please don't use AI. It often lies, it misinterprets facts and information, it gives some imaginary information. Just don't do that. There are such amazing encyclopedias, both online and offline, about myths, religions, different cultures. Don't forget to search some folklore or articles on archetypes. The whole world of symbolism is so fascinating because it discovers new layers of meanings that hide behind every physical object that we have in our human life. After everything that I've said and shared in this video, you might ask, why do you make art journaling so complicated? Isn't art about fun? Isn't it about spending just lovely time playing with different tools and techniques? And I wholeheartedly agree with you. Art is fun. Art is exciting. But if it can be something more than that, if it can become your guide, your point of contact with yourself and the world around you, why not giving it extra thought, attention, and curiosity? Symbols are like words. When a person doesn't understand a certain language, a written word looks like nothing, like nonsense to them, although they do understand that something important is encoded in there. The same thing with personal symbols and metaphors. When we overlook them, when we cannot translate them, we cannot track where our intuition is guiding us, we can feel that, yeah, there is something meaningful in there, but we cannot really tell what exactly is there. It can become part of your inner work, something that is so fascinating and so curious to have throughout your whole life. And every time I make a new discovery, I notice a new symbol, a new word in my personal vocabulary, I feel so present and I feel so real. The simplest doodle that you draw while talking on the phone can tell so much about who you are and what you feel as a person at this moment. We are so conditioned to look for answers outside from leaders, be them political or spiritual, from gurus, from people who for some reason we think know us better than we do. And maybe this video inspired you to look deeper in what you create and find your personal answers there. If you found this inspiring, please let me know. I love reading your personal stories and sharings. They make my day, and I mean it, and I do my best to respond or react to as many of them as I can at the moment. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, dear fellow creatives. I'm wishing you a beautiful day with some gentle self-discovery or contemplative art sessions or anything and everything that you decide to choose. And I will see you in the next video. Пока-пока!